It's Tim Gayesh back once again with another video. Today we're going to talk about depression and the physical facial signs of depression. But before we get into that, I want to talk a bit about, just very briefly, some of my haters on the cynical people posting about how they find the way I speak in my videos to be a bit boring, and don't like the way I use layman's terms. In my videos, I have no scripts. Just like today, I have no script made up. I just grab a few photos of people who have been medically proven to have, or clinically proven, because there's no such thing as medical proven, of depression. I'm going to throw up some pictures. I'm going to show you what I see in them and show you how they all link together and they all have the same signs. So you can link it together for yourself. So yes, I find it boring that I have absolutely no script in front of me. I have nothing. I'm just going to speak and show you what I see. Some people want me to tell jokes or curse a little bit. You know, outside of making videos for you guys, I'm probably the craziest fellow you'll ever meet. And I think most of my patients and clients will agree with that. But anyway, I'm just going to move forward. And as far as the way I speak and the wording in which I use this because my videos are intended to help the general public. I'm not trying to speak to another physician, another practitioner. I'm trying to speak and educate the masses, no matter what level of medical knowledge they have. So yes, there will be times that I kind of stumble a bit to make sure that I don't speak over or too highly in what I'm trying to say, so that some people can't understand it. Anyway, let's move forward and get on to the video. Today we're going to talk about depression, as I stated. Billy Joel, Marilyn Monroe, Robin Williams, Drew Carey, and Ruslana Korshunova. I don't know if I say her name right or not. Three of these people have committed suicide as a result of depression. Two are still with us today, lucky for us. Now, I've picked them because there's a variation of age here, as well as there's a couple of women and a few men. Men are always easier to do facial analysis on because they're less likely, even in Hollywood, to have Botox, put on excessive makeup for a photo, whatever. Where women will always have photos on, and makeup on. And you'll see that in at least one of these, and that you kind of have to try to look beyond it to understand. But when it comes to depression, always look towards the phosphates and potassium arsenite. Silica can come into play as well, but the most usual suspect will always be the phosphates. Phosphates are our brain and nerve nutrients. They have a lot to do with signaling. Most important phosphate would be that of potassium and iron phosphate, though the others, and I'll explain this in a couple of minutes, come into play as well. For instance, potassium phosphate and iron phosphate, or otherwise known as ferrum phosphate, along with albumin, are what create gray matter. Those are the three substances that create gray matter in the brain. So a deficiency in either one of them will have conjugative issues, as well as emotional stability issues, behavioral issues, whatever. Potassium arsenite, to move there, that's kind of separate from what I was really trying to do today, but I figured in order to do this properly, I really had to bring that up, because potassium arsenite is the only tissue salt with an indication of panic attacks and depression, because it deals with a depletion of serotonin, serotonin being a hormone or brain chemical neurotransmitter that regulates your mood. And when deficient, the first sign will be that of panic attacks, and the most severe of signs will be depression, or chronic or manic depression. So anyway, we're going to move forward and we're going to analyze some of these photos. And I'm trying to see this with my glasses on, and they're pretty dirty, so I'm just cleaning them while I'm doing this and trying to stall. There we go. I can almost see out of them. Anyway, so moving on. As you know, this is Billy Joel, or if you don't know, You must be about 10 years old, because this is Billy Joel, the Piano Man. Um, Very great entertainer, known well known for having suffered from anxiety for most of his, depression for most of his career. He has some telltale signs as well. He does not have the potassium arsenite deficiency signs, but he does have lots of the phosphate signs. So we're going to get into them. And to do this, because the way this photo is shot, the photographer used, and for those of you who know photography at all, I'm a photography nut as a hobby when I do have some spare time. But for those of you who do, I'll try to explain this. The f-stop is too low, so his depth of field is too low. So you'll notice the nose is in focus. But the further back on the sides of his face that you go, the more out of focus it becomes. And we kind of needed that, but that's okay. We can still see it, and I'll blow it up so that you can see it as well. And the most important one here is going to be that of potassium phosphate. Once again, completely related to the development of gray matter in the brain. So here we go. You notice that he has lines right here that are going inward, then lines here that are going inward and down, creating a deep indent right here at the outside in the temple area, just to the outside of the eye. This is the easiest one to see it on. It is happening here as well. It's just easier to see it here because you see the two sets of lines going in and downward. So in a potassium phosphate deficiency, you will see a deep indent at the outside corner of the eyes, just between the outside corner of the eye and the temple. This is a potassium phosphate deficiency. The purest sign of a potassium phosphate deficiency. Again, potassium phosphate has to do with so much when it comes to behavioral issues, from depression, even claustrophobia is linked to a potassium phosphate deficiency, a lack of motivation, melancholy, moodiness, nervousness, just a stressed personality. That all be brought on by deficiency in the particular subtype of potassium called potassium phosphate. And I'm going to scroll out a bit here now, bring it in a bit. Hopefully you can see all of this. On his upper eyelids here, you'll notice that they're dark and discolored, reddish, brownish. There's different colors here. This darkened upper eyelids that actually, and this extends down below, which means that the deficiency is great, is a calcium phosphate deficiency. Now, calcium phosphate, although I didn't really talk about that much before, that has a lot to do with behavioral issues. And again, although depression is involved there, nervousness as well. Interestingly enough, since he's an entertainer, calcium phosphate can actually be linked to stage fright. Along with that, a failure to take responsibility for your own actions, and a person who would become easily addicted and lacks willpower. Generally, that is a really good sign of somebody who would be a cheater on their spouse. I'm not saying that Billy Joel is. There's about 200 indications of every individual subtype of a mineral. So this doesn't necessarily mean that Billy Joel is a cheater. And actually, I don't see any of the other indications there. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I really don't know. And I'm not trying to imply that he is. Anyway, so far we have potassium phosphate, which is shown by the indents at the outside corners of the eyes. We have calcium phosphate right here with the darkened eyelids. But if you look out here and out here on the edges of the ears, might be better to try to zoom this ear in. You'll notice that these are red. Along with that, you'll notice this redness here in the cheeks, and starts on the nose and spreads out to the cheeks. That is magnesium phosphate deficiency. Magnesium phosphate, this would anybody deficient in magnesium phosphate would have an aggressive personality. Again, always depression when it comes to a phosphate. they'd be easily excited, that they'd feel their moods would always be changing. They'd be immature. They'd have self use. Anyway, it goes on and on and on for magnesium phosphate. Magnesium phosphate for you gals with premenstrual syndrome, having to deal with pain and contractions of the uterus. Awesome stuff for you gals as well. I don't think he's going to have any issues with his uterus, however, but he does have an issue with magnesium phosphate. So there we've identified 3 phosphates in which Billy Joel is deficient in. Sodium phosphate he's not deficient in. If he had a sodium phosphate deficiency, this would be shiny here in the T zone between the eyebrows and down the nose. Although you are seeing some shine here and around here, it's not down. It's not continued down. So I would not personally say that he has a sodium phosphate deficiency. Iron phosphate, yes. We'll get to that now. I don't know if you can see it, though I can. Right here, you can see redness here. You can see redness out here that extends out in the outside corners of his lips and of his eyes. Sorry. And if you look at his lips, you'll see there's inconsistent pigmentation. It's dark, it's light, it's dark, it's light. That would be an iron phosphate deficiency. Again, remember, iron phosphate, potassium phosphate, albumin collectively are what makes gray matter in your brain. If you were to open his mouth now and look at his gums, I guarantee you he has very light pink gums. There's absolutely no question in my mind. If he had red gums, he would be a very rare case. Anything is possible, but I seriously doubt it. Anyway, that's Billy Joel. 4 out of 5 of the phosphates that feed the brain and nervous system are deficient. So of course he suffers from depression. He can't help it. He really has no choice. The deficiencies are regulating his mood and diminishing it. So anyway, we're going to move on now. I don't remember who the next picture is, but you see what these signs are. I don't have to go through all that now. The rest will be pretty quick compared to this one, until we find which one were we missing? Sodium phosphate deficiency. So let's move on. Oops. So here we have Drew Carey. And here you can see the indents in his eyes, on the outside corners of his eyes. It's quite prominent. Now, he does have a potassium arsenite deficiency. But we'll get to that after. Anyway, once again, you're seeing redness here in the ears, redness in the nose, spreads out into the cheeks, magnesium phosphate. This picture is really poor quality. I should have tried to pick a better one. Sorry about that. I must have taken the small one, but I'm not going to redo the video just for that. Honestly, it does look like light and dark on the lips as well. I do see redness here and here. Yeah, I do see redness here, anyway, and there. So I'm going to make an assumption here, which isn't really fair, but for the purposes of the video, and you understand I can't really see it because you can't either, that he has an iron phosphate, magnesium phosphate because of the ears, potassium phosphate. Now, you see how his skin is hanging below, from above his upper eyelids. It's hanging down and it's covering it. So we really can't see it, though I can, because I can see that it's dark right here, and I can see that they're dark right here. So I know he has a calcium phosphate deficiency. But this hanging of the skin right here is a calcium carbonate deficiency. Completely unrelated, but for those of you who might like to know, hanging of the skin that hangs down and covers the upper eyelids is a calcium carbonate deficiency. But the way that his eyes are hanging, the skin above his eyes is hanging, tells the story of potassium phosphate. Now, Drew Carey has attempted to commit suicide and has had depression most of his life. But you notice how the skin above his eyes hangs here, but it stops right here. This is kind of puffy right here, while this is hanging. This puffiness normally, but because he's a big man, he should have narrowed cheeks, though he does not. But this is what you look for: is how the right here at this corner, up in here, that it's not consistent with the rest of the upper eyelid. Normally it's puffy, and in this case it kind of is. So again, also in the preceding eyes, his eyes are sunk in a bit, and that's what's causing this issue, potassium arsenite, which will every time provoke depression, panic attacks if it's only slight, depression if it's severe. His is severe, and there's absolutely no question about that. So just to run back over Drew's, we're making an assumption because of the poor quality of the photo, because I do see 2 out of 3 of the facial indicators of a ferrum phosphate deficiency or iron phosphate deficiency, that he is iron phosphate deficient. If we look at the nose, the redness, I can see the redness here and here and here and here on the ears. So I'm going to say for sure he has a magnesium phosphate. The deep indents at the outside corners of his eyes, potassium phosphate. Again, he may very well be, though there's a bit of shininess here. Because you see the shine is only here, and it runs down to the tip of his nose. There's a little bit here and here. That would be a sodium phosphate deficiency. And you notice how he's got the big skin and the double chin. That again, but he's overweight as well. The true sign here, this T-zone, the shiny T-zone. So now we have a sodium phosphate deficiency. Hanging skin on along the jaw line is will also correspond or help prove the sodium phosphate deficiency. So he has sodium phosphate, potassium phosphate, iron phosphate, magnesium phosphate, and calcium phosphate deficiencies. It's no wonder that he suffers so badly. Oh, and potassium arsenite deficiency. So it's no wonder that he suffers so badly from depression. It's these guys. A lot of people talk about these celebrities. Say, "Oh, poor babies. How can they possibly be depressed?" Well, I can tell you, everybody I'm going to show you today has physical issues, and the depression is a symptom of a physical issue. This isn't somebody who simply feels sorry for himself because he didn't make that extra $10 million in the last movie. This is a physical illness, not a mental or emotional illness, as the lunatics in the psychiatric industry would like you to believe. So anyway, let's move forward, because I like to talk a bit too much, as you can tell. Now, I wish Marilyn Monroe, there's no way I'm going to tell the others, but I'm going to show you both the potassium phosphate deficiency and the potassium arsenite deficiency. Now, Marilyn, you suck, because she always wore her fake eyelashes just at the outside corners, which is really where we need to see, but hopefully you can see this as easy as I can, how sharp, how the skin is down there, even though she's trying to mask it. It's puffy here, goes in, and there's a deep crease and deep line in there. Potassium phosphate. Once again, it changes. This isn't going straight across. Potassium arsenite. When you get into potassium arsenite deficiencies, you can look for manic depression, which she did suffer from. So this would just be a little bit of a help to help you guys understand what to look for once again. So we'll move on to the next one, and here we have Robin Williams. I was so sad to see his passing. He is one guy who really could have been helped had anybody truly understand his issues. And I've done shown pictures and all of the signs on the Facebook fan page, on my Facebook fan page, just to show the signs that he has, because he has all of them. Absolutely every single possible sign. I selected this picture because he's looking sideways. It really shows the deep indent. It shows the darkened upper eyelids, which isn't as severe as the rest of them, but it's also the least provoker of depression. He has the shiny T-zone, uh, sodium phosphate deficiency. You can look at the red here at the outside corners, inconsistent color of the lips. Um, if you had a good picture, you would probably see darkness that went across. I know his gums are very light pink and not dark red as they should be, because I know that he has an iron phosphate deficiency. And if you look right up in here, you'll see it's almost swelling. There's a puffiness right here and here. Potassium arsenite. You know, skin is hanging, cheeks are sunk in. He's a good example of that. He has the narrow cheeks, but the hanging skin below the jawline, which means he is literally deficient in every single one of them. And every single one of them, except for calcium phosphate, is a very severe deficiency. You know, it's no wonder he struggled for so long. He never had the two things, with the exception of albumin, needed to create gray matter and reproduce or recreate gray matter in his brain. He was heavily deficient in both of them. So anyway, we're going to move forward to the last gal here, and this is Ruslana Korsanova. I'm not a big TV person. Don't worry, I'm not one of those hippie type people smoking some dope and with a beard and hair down to my butt. But I'm just not a TV watcher. There's not enough hours in the day. So anyway, what I just want to show you again is potassium phosphate, which is easily seen in these photos. Again, this gal killed herself, apparently. I really don't even know who she is. I just did a quick search on celebrities who killed themselves. Grabbed the first ones I could just to create this video, because I promised my private Facebook group that I would create a video or two this evening. So this is what I'm doing. If you look at the outside corners of her eyes, you see the very deep indent. Very, very deep indent there. Even though she's trying to mask it with her eyeshadow, she can't. It's just simply too deep. And if you look here, there's puffiness and almost a lump at the inside corners here. And you can almost see that it's almost overlapping. Actually, it is overlapping at the inside corners of the eyes, overlapping the upper eyelid. Severe potassium arsenite deficiency. These are the signs. You really need to look out if you know somebody who's suffering from depression, and you want to know whether it's because of personal circumstance or whether it is a true physical issue that could provoke a change in behaviors and a loss of respect for their own lives. Look for the physical signs: the indent at the outside corners of the eyes, the dark upper eyelids, inconsistent color of the lips, redness at the outside corner bottom eyelid, at the flares of the nose. That would be a iron phosphate deficiency. Calcium phosphate would be the upper eyelids. Oh, sorry, I believe I already said that. Magnesium phosphate would be a red nose that spreads out onto the cheeks, and redness on the ears. Potassium arsenite is a little harder to see, and I do understand that. I can see it, and I know some of you might struggle a bit with that one, because I can't seem to really help anybody understand that. But just again, if you look, there's so much extension or puffiness in here that the skin is actually covering the upper eyelid at the inside corner. So yes, there's a puffiness there. She has another issue. She also has a thyroid issue. Has no choice, because this indent right here and right here, indent there, puffiness there. These indents are a selenium deficiency. But anyway, we won't get into that and confuse things all the more. We'll stick to what we're talking about, and that's depression. Those are the signs, folks. Watch out for them. If you know somebody with them, help them address their mineral deficiencies. Make sure that somebody's paying attention to them so that they don't become a victim of their own deficiencies. Keep them around for a while longer. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.